Rieger getting traded to Minnesota changes nothing.
6'4" guys running 4.4s. These guys don't grow on trees. And a lot of times I'm willing to bet on, especially long term, on the freak athlete.
You don't ever want to overreact to what guys look like in preseason. There's been a ton of preseason all-stars that never make rosters or never pan out. Good evening, Belly Up Fantasy Live. It is Wednesday, last day of November. Christmas season is in full swing, apparently.
It's hard to believe it's the last day of November.
Right?
Just saying that out loud is.
Yeah, no, that's rough, man. I looked
at
that.
It is.
Son of a gun.
Yeah. Those of us that really haven't gotten on board with our Christmas shopping needs to, get with it.
Yeah. I got about 3 people I actually have to buy for because the wife takes care of just about the rest of it. And I'm not alone in that. I know I'm not. But yeah, I got to jump on that here. But anyway, it is the last day of November. It is Wednesday. It is the Wednesday preview edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live show for week 13. We are winding down to the end of the fantasy regular season. Most leagues, you've got 2 weeks left this week and next week of the regular season before the playoffs start. So you are either in do no harm mode and trying to just maintain your playoff position, or fighting for your life and trying to get in. Hopefully you're in one of those 2 positions and not just mailing it in for next year. But you have 2 weeks left. So
right.
It is getting down to crunch time here. Okay. Coming off what actually was a really good week of games.
It was.
I mean, the Thursday night slate. Wow. I mean, the whole Thursday slate period. The whole Thanksgiving slate. All 3 games were good, fun, competitive games to watch. I don't think they could have asked for a better, outcome of how the games went on Thursday for a, when all eyes are on you kind of thing. They can only hope that their Christmas slate goes that well, I think. But the rest of the matchups didn't look on paper like they were going to be any good. I mean, it looked like kind of like a dud week in terms of some of the other matchups that were going on. And then heck, we get some actual fun, entertaining games and some, we get a 84-yard walk-off overtime.
We don't
touchdown.
need to bring that up. All right. We don't need to bring that up.
303
probably
total
a friend
yards.
of mine watching right now that would love to talk about nothing else but his Raiders.
There was a point in this preseason, and I know we'll move on and past it really quick here, but there was a point this preseason where you probably could have got decent odds that Josh Jacobs might not have 303 yards on the season.
Right. And there was a big, as far as who you talk to. I think that both you and I were pretty much on the Josh train. There was a lot of us that are in our own community.
I had him as a wide. I had him as a 2. I had him as a running back 2. I thought, okay, yeah, he's still going to get the run, and they're probably going to run him into the ground because
that's what I thought too. And so, if you drafted him and listened to the 2 of us and not certain other individuals, you're sitting pretty.
Yeah,
right now.
No. If you listen to me on drafting him and not necessarily pushing Alvin Kamara too high, hey,
because you could get Josh Jacobs a lot later in the draft than say somebody like Kamara.
We're not going to
pay a huge dividend.
We're not going to bring up like Melvin Gordon and Darrell Henderson.
No. We don't need to do that. No.
Listen, nobody saw either one of those offenses falling absolutely apart like they did, though. The same with the Packers offense. I don't think anybody saw it being quite. we all knew they needed receiving help or that they needed their receivers to develop, but I don't think anybody saw them absolutely falling off the wagon like they have so far. But yeah, if you listen to us on Josh Jacobs, then you were sitting okay, because you drafted him thinking you were going to flex him probably, and you end up getting a high end running back one right now.
Yeah, and he started off kind of, slowly, but man,
now
that
there's some
train
talk,
is fully engaged.
and they've been using him. They've been throwing to him as well.
As
They haven't
as they should.
We all thought, well, Brandon Bolden there and Amir Abdullah, and Abdullah has gotten some.
And I actually
especially
had
lately.
Brandon Bolin on my fantasy, on one of my
Right.
dynasty teams, and that is just like a ship that's gone aground right there. So
now, especially lately, Abdullah's gotten some pass game.
He has.
The other night.
He's another player that I have on a dynasty team.
Jacobs has just been so effective for that team. It's really been kind of remarkable. And now I think they have an interesting situation here now, where they have a draft pick that I think they're pretty excited about, high on, with Zamir White, who hasn't looked terrible when they've used him, but he has not he's barely gotten any work this season. They've got about 18 other running backs, two of which, Bolden and Abdullah, to receive the ball if they need to. But do they bring Josh Jacobs back? They've already declined his option. He's playing.
I thought that was a pretty much
contract right now.
But they weren't going to bring him back. I think that was pretty much decided. Now, though.
Now, what do you do? Now,
what do you do? Because
upset the basket.
The idea is you just go out and you rake your yard and you come in with a running back.
And
pretty much.
This team has. There you go. This team has underperformed from a results standpoint.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, Davante Adams has continued to be Davante Adams.
Well, he's getting 15 targets a game, so
continuing to be Davante Adams. The same thing as he saw in Green Bay, and he's putting it together, leading the league in receiving touchdowns, I think, right now. And he's leading the league in targets for wide outs, and he's catching the ball at a better, especially lately, he's catching the ball at a better rate than he started out. He's not been overly efficient this year compared to previous seasons, and some of that might be the difference between Derek Carr and Rodgers. But
I know they both went to the same school, but still.
But if you drafted Davante Adams as a number one wideout, you still have a number one wideout.
You're
came
happy
out of
with
that
that.
Okay.
Yeah, you came out of that okay.
He has not Mike Evans'd you this season.
No. And if you're like me and drafted Justin Jefferson, you're good to go. So
yeah, I don't like to talk about him either. He's ripping things apart for my team. But anyway, and being close to the Minnesota border, that's literally all we hear about is the Vikings. And I will say, I've said this before, I don't think I'm saying anything that I wouldn't say to anybody else. Paul Allen, if anybody out there has not heard Paul Allen, the radio announcer, the main play-by-play announcer for the Vikings on the radio, Paul Allen is a very enthusiastic gentleman at his job, which you want it to be entertaining on the radio.
Right.
But Paul Allen, every 3-yard gain is tantamount to winning the Super Bowl for the Vikings. And every 1-yard loss or stop for no gain on a rush or what, they might as well fold the franchise, screw it, move him to San Antonio, get rid of, because terrible, absolutely terrible. He's got such an intense voice anyway. But then, he literally, everything is the height of hyperbole on every single play. And it's kind of comical to listen to. It kind of drives me nuts. If you're looking for a real good radio call, not just because of the outcome of it, if you're looking for a fun radio call and what I'm talking about with Paul Allen, go back and find the radio, and you can YouTube this, I'm sure. Find the radio call from Brett Favre's interception to end that NFC Championship game versus the New Orleans Saints, when he throws back across his body across the middle, as Brett Favre did literally 28 times a game. And listen to his response to that. This isn't the Detroit Lions. This is for the Super Bowl. Just yelling at Brett Favre, who took them farther than any quarterback had taken them in how long. And
right.
Anyway, yeah, that's because I'm in this part of the country. I gotta listen to that all the time, and I'm not going to complain.
Well, we
about
got to listen to Jerry Jones down here, so
right? Yeah.
You got to pick your poison, I guess.
Radio, television, commercials, just opening your front door, and you could probably hear him. Yeah, he's had an interesting time of it too lately with the photo that came out of him from Little Rock. Man, you talk about it's one thing, they come up with this stuff all the time. Like one of my favorite memes around Halloween was right now, some white person is planning a Halloween costume that's going to ruin their future, because we've seen it happen so many times. Even the Canadian Prime Minister, I think, had a costume that he had dressed up in blackface or whatever. And
I remember that. Yeah. So
right. So, and we know about. Well, again, I'm right next door to Minnesota. We saw the photograph that ended up costing their Senator Al Franken his position in Congress from years ago. And it's one thing when they dredge up these photos from people's pasts, that where they're doing something, but like the 14-year-old kid in high school,
man,
at one of the seminal historical moments in our nation's history, especially in the last 100 years. And then for one of those people to end up being as famous and as Jerry Jones, man, that's quite the confluence of.
I wonder who looked at that picture and said to themselves, "Hey, because Jerry Jones couldn't have looked like Jerry Jones when he was 14."
If you've seen the picture,
I have not.
If you've seen the picture, you're like, oh yeah, that's Jerry. He's got a little bit less of the loose.
I'm
neck,
sure
the neck folds that he's got now as an older man. But yeah, it's definitely.
You wouldn't think that something that you did when you're 14 and 19, whatever it was, 50, whatever, there would be a picture. You know what I mean?
Right. So. And I am not saying for better or worse or whatever that we should or shouldn't go back and take some of that kind of stuff into account, from a social stand. I'm not going to make social commentary on it that way. I am just going to say it is a sign of the times.
Go to ESPN.
Yeah, right. But it is a sign of the times. I mean, with the internet and with nothing dies anymore. Everything is out there.
That's right.
Out there for somebody to find,
some people still haven't learned that Twitter is a loaded weapon, and the weapon is pointed right back at you.
Right. Oh yeah. Anyway,
just look at somebody like Alyssa Milano. I don't know if you heard about that. No, and she thought she was being all witty and everything else, and she just got creamed.
Yeah, well,
like I said,
especially if you're in the public eye.
Political theater, to a minimum.
But even if you're not in the public eye, man, just if it.
Yeah. So if you're out there, you're listening to this, watch what you, especially when you tweet it, because it goes out. There is no delete. You can delete it from your account, but everybody you just sent it to already has it.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on. Week 13. That's that's our 13, social comments. That's as close as we're going to get.
We got a little bit off the beat trail right there, and
week 13. Now we came off week 12. Week 12, there were no buys. Stupidly enough, in my opinion. Now I get they wanted a full slate of games on Thursday.
We need to go out and find somebody that's in the NFL office that can come on here and explain why in the world do we have no buys last week, 2 this week, and then what is it, 6 teams
tomorrow? Yeah. Now tomorrow, is regular Thursday, so we've only got 1 game. Last week we had 3 on Thursday, and I get that if you have no buys in week 12. You got the 3 Thursday games. Now you can still have a full Sunday slate. We still had a full Sunday, palette of games there. We weren't missing 4 teams or whatever. But why we have only 2 teams off this week and next week, like I said, one of the most pivotal weeks of the season, and from a fantasy standpoint, we've got 6 teams on but we got over a fifth of the league off, or almost a fifth of the league off. And I would think the NFL, by now the NFL has embraced gambling. They have embraced the fantasy, aspect of things. They understand that the fantasy portion of things grows their game. It grows their
That's right.
audience. It brings in money for them.
It might
And
make them cringe, but that's just the way it is.
Right. And the gambling is the same way. Crimeanies, they've got a team in Las Vegas right now. And how, 20 years ago, could they have told either of us that there would ever be a professional team of any kind?
Yeah, they were saying there would
Las
never
Vegas?
be a team.
And now,
In,
now they've got a
in Vegas,
championship
and now
winning
you've got
hockey
a hockey
program.
team, and you got, of course, the Raiders there.
Yeah.
So
and it's been talked about for
and
other.
you got a AAA baseball team. I guess nobody cares about that, but
right. But I mean, when they know that a big portion of their bread is buttered by the fantasy fandom, putting 6 teams plus, you're putting 6 teams on a bye with the majority of the season, like the vast majority of the season already done. Some of these teams, like the
there's
Packers,
only 3
are off
weeks
next
left,
week.
or is it 4 weeks?
There's 4 weeks left. There's week 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There's 5 weeks left. There'll be 4 games after that for teams that have that game off.
So you had to endure, kind of like
over
Rocky
3/4 of your
beat
season.
up in the first round, and
your day off comes 3/4 of the way.
Your
through the
day
season.
comes off. You've been beaten on for 12 rounds already, and so that doesn't. And the team that was off in week 5 or whatever it was, and now they've been beaten on for the last 5 weeks or 10 weeks, whatever it is.
Right.
Why they can't just? I don't get it. They just
can't do. Yeah.
Why can't they do 4 teams?
Four teams a week. Start week 4 through 12 or whatever, and just be done with it. But what do I know? I don't know. I don't sign the checks.
Unfortunately for me, because the Cardinals and the Panthers are on bye. Unfortunately for me, I've got 2 guys on each team. So that, you know what I mean?
I got a lot of James Conner sitting this week.
Most people have everybody available to them on their fantasy team.
Yeah.
I do not.
Well,
next week, as you mentioned, 6 teams. I got 1 guy on bye next week. And that's it.
So we are at the end of we are towards the end of the fantasy season, and like I said, it's either do no harm week or time of year or win at all costs. If you're fighting to get in the playoffs, you need to win, and you need to win now.
That's right. And
that might mean some difficult decisions next.
That's right.
Week
and redraft, that's where I find myself. In Dynasty, I'm in good shape in Dynasty, but in redraft, I win, or then feet go up.
You may need to make some hard choices about who to cut, who to pick up, how to set a lineup up if you need to win next week and this week to make it.
Maybe you might have to trade somebody that you don't want to.
And it's not,
because if you don't make the playoffs, then what are you doing it for?
Right. The teams that are off next week, it's not a slate of fantasy superstars, but it's not like there still aren't a lot of starters that you're going to be missing next week. Either way, it's 6 teams. Like we said, that's almost 1/5 of the league. That's a lot of fantasy players that are unavailable to you. Even just from the standpoint of fantasy defenses, kickers, tight ends, because we know tight end has been such a cluster, this year. So you need to keep things in mind. Take a look at things that you're in your end game of the season right now. And if you're struggling to get in, you might need to look ahead to next week. Think about making some early pickups like right now. Even I know waivers have passed, so now free agency is open in a lot of leagues. Take a look, try to set yourself up, but you have to win this week and next week.
Right.
So keep that in mind as you're looking at ads.
Right.
If you're in a good position, if you're setting yourself up for the playoffs because you're already in, you can
I'm
start
10-2
doing
in
things
one
like
dynasty league, so I'm sitting good there. So
there you go.
That's exactly what you're talking about.
But if you want to start looking forward.
Yeah, look forward to see what kind of who's got the best fantasy matchups.
Right.
If you're in a player-wise, maybe defensive-wise, and all that sort of thing. So
I've started doing that in a couple leagues where I'm looking at the defense that I have right now and who do I want to maybe stream for next week and the week after, or who's got a good slate through the playoffs or whatever, and trying to pick some of those guys up now and dropping my 5th and 6th wide receiver or whatever, because at this point, you can afford to drop, or you probably can afford to drop somebody like a Donovan Peoples-Jones for another defense if that defense has better matchups than your current defense. You don't want the defense that's playing the Bills in
Yeah.
the middle of your playoff run.
That's a
You're not gonna
decision
play
I
that
have to
game.
make because I have the Chiefs.
Right.
Right. Okay. But the Chiefs are playing Cincinnati.
Yep. This week they are. But
That's
next
not a good
week,
matchup. Not a good matchup.
they do have a good
But
matchup next week. So that's a
but
team that I've
they
looked
sure
at
do.
a
That's
week
my
ahead.
point right there that you're making right now. So do you drop them and then somebody else gets them? Because somebody else will.
Right.
So
fun. But it is that time of year.
that's
so
the
it's
boat
time
I
to start
find
thinking
myself
about
in
that
as
stuff,
we
guys.
speak.
Yeah, and tight end wise, Cole Kmet, like just for example, everybody thinking about this, Cole Kmet was a popular pickup with all the tight ends who have gone down,
Sure was.
and he started playing much better with Justin Fields. Now Fields has been hurt. We don't know. Won't he play here? Will he play this week? Maybe. Will he play for the rest of the year? Will they shut him down, keep him healthy? Who knows? But either way, if you drop your tight end because he was hurt, if you had Kyle Pitts or Zach Ertz,
Kyle
whoever,
Pitts I thought is out for the season. If you hadn't seen it.
he had surgery.
That's
So
right.
if you have Cole Kmet and you only carry one tight end, he's off next week. You have to find a tight end for next week.
That's right. And
Don't
carrying
wait
tight end is
until-
usually the strategy we recommend.
Try to find someone right now.
Yep, you need to do it. Maybe
because
Foster Moreau. There you go.
Everybody else is going to be looking for. There's 6 teams off next week, including some of the other like deeper options. But the Colts are off. Jelani Woods, Robert Tonyan. You're not going to have Robert Tonyan next week. There's a lot of guys that are going to be off, and you're going to want to have to. You're not going to want to have to be scrambling last second to try and find that tight end. So just keep that in mind. 6 teams off. If you've got to win, you need to keep your
tight end
ducks
is
in a
kind
row
of
these
like
last 2
driving a
weeks.
car blindfolded right now. So
oh man, just absolutely ridiculous. Juwan Johnson here to bring up Juwan Johnson here.
Okay, we could talk about him. Somebody that I recommended earlier, right? You know what he did this past week?
Nothing.
Big Guadu.
Here's the thing about Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson has had 0 points in 2 games.
That's right.
In 2 other games, he had 2 point, I think it was 2.6 and 3.4. So over 1 full quarter of his season, and at this point right now, it's a full third only. Over a third of his season, he had 6 total points. He is tight end 10 right now. A third of the season, 6 total points in 4 games. And he's still tight end 10. That's how terrible the landscape is for tight end right now.
Yes.
Where unless you have Travis Kelce, unless you had before the tragedies, Ertz or Goddard, and if you've had Andrews.
I had Goddard and I had Freemouth. I traded Freemouth, right? I got a wide receiver back. And so what happened? Goddard
gone. Now he is looking at coming back. They said that he should be ready to come back in week 15. So again, if you have a roster spot available, if you have an IR slot, if you're in the playoffs, you picked up a tight end to make it through, you could get him back in the middle of your playoff run. And honestly, at tight end, even if it's his first week back and he's as good a dart throw. He's a better dart throw than most because you know that he fits in that offense and what he's going to do. I'm in a league right now where I have Goddard waiting on the bench. We don't have IR slots, but I've held on to him.
I have one.
He's so valuable. I am in line right now for a first round bye. So I would not play week 14. I would play week 15 and I could get Goddard back and play him instead of Foster Moreau.
Yeah, that's a solid scenario right there.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So, but Juwan Johnson, that's how terrible the tight end landscape has been this year, folks. Juwan Johnson, he has 6 points for a third of his season. And he's still tight end 10 overall. In fact, he's outscored Taysom Hill at this point. And Taysom Hill has had
Taysom Hill is somebody that if you have him, you're ready to just shoot yourself.
Right? You don't know. Should you drop him? Should you keep him? Because the minute you drop him.
Let me see here. I think I wrote it down somewhere because it's crazy the way that, since he had that big, huge game in week, whatever it was, 5, whatever. He hasn't scored that many fantasy points and you add all his games up since then.
Since then, yeah. And it's a guy that we know can go on because he doesn't need a ton of touches because he gets red zone usage. He throws the ball. They use him as a red zone target, not very often, but they do use him as a red zone target. When he gets passing targets, it's in the red zone. They don't throw him between the 20s.
Which they didn't do last week because they didn't even score.
No, well, they didn't throw it. Yeah, they didn't really throw too much to anybody. Jawan Johnson went 0 for 2. But all right, let's tell you what. Let's do our first break here. And we'll come back on the other side
because we actually have a good Thursday night game.
Let's actually break this one down for tomorrow night. All right. Yeah, I agree. We actually have a fun matchup to watch tomorrow. Let's do our first break. And
I'm sure, Andrew's going to have to strap himself down because his, Patriots are playing the Bills. And I'm sure he's got it is a huge game.
Big game.
It's a divisional game, of course.
Standing wise, division wise, but yeah. It's not an easy one for either side. We'll break it down on the other side of this right after we hear from Dan Mater reading for Manscaped here.
Welcome to Fresh Ball Fall. It's the season of pumpkin spice and making sure your crotch looks nice. That means sipping cider in a fall breeze and using Manscaped products to trim your balls with ease. That's right, today's show is brought to you by Manscaped, a company here to make sure that your foliage isn't the only thing shedding its excess leaves. Heck, even Mother Nature knows it's time to lose the excess clutter for fall. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Whether you're brand new or already with us at Manscaped, you can use the crown jewel of care for your family jewels, the Platinum Package 4.0. This glorious package, you can align your entire hygiene routine all in one swoop. Inside the 10-part Platinum Package is everything you know and love about the Performance Package, plus some shower goodies included to elevate your grooming game to platinum. You can now completely upgrade your shower routine with the Ultra Premium Body Wash and Ultra Premium 2-in-1 Shampoo and Conditioner. You'll have your skin and hair feeling hydrated and smelling fresh. Don't forget to apply their aluminum-free Ultra Premium Deodorant. And don't worry, it's not pumpkin spice, it's a cologne-quality fragrance. Get the Platinum Package this fall. These products are guaranteed to be hits for your dangly bits. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Manscaped, clear out the leaves. It's your tree trunk's time to shine.
All right, welcome back here. Now, let's get on to this Thursday night.
Let's get into this because they're trying to make up for all those games that you wanted to flush down the toilet. Because this is a very intriguing game coming up tomorrow night.
Now, from that standpoint, from the NFL's, to their credit, I will say I did see that. I think they flexed the Chiefs and Broncos out of the Sunday night slot here that they were supposed to be in. Maybe it was next week, but they flexed the Broncos out of a primetime game finally, which is good because it seemed like we had to watch them in every primetime game for the first 6 weeks of the year.
Yeah, they've been on every other day, it seems like.
Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, standalone foreign games.
You can yell at us for being wrong about certain things, but the NFL was way wrong about the Denver Broncos. We
get a decent Thursday night game now finally between the Bills, 4.5-point favorites over the Patriots in Foxborough here. It's a 40.5-point over-under here for this game, thanks to our friends at Quarter 4 for those lines. But interesting game here from a standings perspective. Now the Patriots are in 4th place in the AFC East, but they are 2 games behind the Bills. Bills are in 2nd place. They're tied record-wise with the Dolphins, but the Dolphins have the head-to-head matchup on them.
Right.
And so the Bills right now are in 5th place. They're in the first wild card slot,
which you don't want anything to do with.
Right. But then the Jets at 7-4 right now are hanging on to the last wild card spot, that 7th seed. The Patriots are in the 8th spot right now, 1 game behind the Jets at 6-5. So you win this game. Now, like we said, we've still got, depending on when your bye week was and how many games you've played, you've got 5 games left or whatever here, but we've still got there's still plenty of time left for the Patriots to get themselves in playoff position. And when you're only 2 games behind the lead in your division, anything can happen still, especially when you've got division games left. So this is a big game standing wise. This could hurt the Bills. And as good as the Bills have looked at times this season, as good as we all kind of think they are, they have shown themselves to be somewhat fallible this year. They're not untouchable. They're
vulnerable.
Right.
They are.
As good as their defense is, as explosive as their offense is, Josh Allen has had some turnover problems this season, and they are a team that can be beaten.
He sure have.
So, we should have a good, fun, competitive game. The Bills' strength is their offense. I would argue, as good as their defense is, their strength is their offense. Playing against a Bill Belichick defense,
that's where they've really struggled, though, is on defense. They've really struggled, especially their pass defense. They're 22nd in the NFL.
That's been part of the problem.
Now, when was the last time a Buffalo defense was 22nd in the NFL?
Right.
That's a big failure to me.
I've brought it up before. There's the tail wag the dog, chicken and egg type problem. Do they give up so many yards passing because they're always ahead and people are always passing on them, or are they vulnerable to the pass game? But either way, the point is, from a fantasy standpoint here, they're good against quarterbacks. They are they give up, they're 26th. They give up the 26th most points to opposing quarterbacks. They are very good. They're a tough matchup against quarterbacks from a fantasy standpoint. 28th against tight ends. So again, they're a real tough matchup against tight ends, but number 8 against wide receivers. So that was part of the, I threw up a little in my mouth when I was previewing this game, looking at this game and trying to figure out who to rank where, because it's a great matchup for opposing wide receivers against the Bills. But we're talking about the Patriots wide receivers, and the Patriots don't have any wide receivers that anyone wants to play anywhere.
Well, when you look at it, let's see, who are you going to play? Jacoby Myers?
Right.
He had 4 targets.
Now,
are you going to play Devontae Parker? He had 4 targets. Damian, well, he's a running back, but Hunter Henry, which is a guy that I wrote about, and a guy that I really, really have a hard time getting behind because he steps on landmines, right, when he doesn't mean to. And but he did have a touchdown last week, and he did have 30 yards.
Yeah, no, he had a great game last week for him.
He did, and like you just said, they struggle against tight ends. So maybe you need to look at the, and I'm sure Hunter Henry is available in a lot of leagues.
He probably is available. I mean, listen, I said it last week. I wasn't big on him, and and
there's a reason not to be big on him.
Anybody who watched last week, they saw.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
I shut the door forever on Devontae Parker being a usable fantasy piece, or even somebody we should talk about.
Right, but then he gets 80 yards. He had 80 yards last week.
4 for 80. Great, good for you, buddy. That's about his season right there. So that's the thing that sucks, is that the only really good matchup that anybody could have against the Bills from a fantasy standpoint or real life standpoint is at that wide receiver position. But we're playing a team in the Patriots whose receiving core you don't want any part of. Now, I do have Myers this week ranked as a very low possible flex option. I've got him at wide receiver 31.
Right, because the week before that he had 6 targets for 52 yards. So he's not getting you more than 62 yards, 70 yards.
No.
Maybe 62 is about it.
He's wide receiver 36 on the season, and he's been by far their best receiver. Everybody else,
you don't want anything to do with a wide receiver 36.
Kendrick Bourne hasn't been usable all year.
No, he's been.
Tyquan Thornton, who should have been.
I thought he was going to be something. I really did, and he has
0 targets last week. 0 targets last week. He doesn't rank in the top 100 of wide receivers.
Yeah, he stayed at home last week, and
he's unusable. Bourne's unusable. Aguilar occasionally catches. Last week he had a good game. He had a fun game.
Aguilar is another guy that I actually put in my article. I didn't feature him, but he was down there at the bottom, and so maybe
Ever since he got out of Philadelphia, he's proven that he can at least occasionally catch the ball.
Right. As soon as you get on board with him, and then his hands turn to stone.
Nice game last week.
Nice game. That's why I wrote about him.
18 and a half points. But he's so inconsistent, and none of their receivers are consistent. Even like I said, their best receiver is wide receiver 36 on the year. I've got him at 31 this week. I don't want to use any of their guys. Damian Harris, I just mentioned, is injured. He's not going to play this week. He'll be out. So when we want to look at the only guy I would actually the only skill position player I would actually recommend on this team this week is Ramondre Stevenson. He's running back 8 on the year. I've got him at running back 7 this week. It's not a great matchup running back wise when you're talking about the defense for the Bills, but it's not terrible either.
They're where pretty the middle of the road. Is against the running back position.
They are pretty middle of the road, though, from a fantasy standpoint. They give up the 19th most points to opposing runners. So like I said, right in the middle, right down the middle of the road. So with Harris out, and with their receivers being so wishy-washy and all over the place, I would expect, Stevenson is going to get he's coming off a game where he set career highs, season highs, but career highs in catches and targets. He was 9 for 10 receiving last week with 76 yards.
He has 15 catches in his last 2 games.
Yeah. And 9 of those came on 10 targets in the last game. That's a big game for any running back. That's a big game for a receiver.
It is.
Okay.
He got you 16 and a half.
He got you 16 and a half points from passing, from his receiving skills. He didn't even find the end zone, but he got you almost 20 points on he got you 20 points on the
game. He only had 36 yards rushing.
Yeah.
So if he didn't catch the ball, then he, be in the back of the bus with the rest of them.
He got you 11.2 points from his yardage, and he got you 9 more points from a full PPR standpoint. So he got you over 20 points without finding the end zone. He's going to see that kind of same usage again this week. If they have to throw the ball, they're going to have to throw it to someone. He's available because Damian Harris and the rest of their running back core are really not available. So I like him. Like I said, I have him ranked top 10 as running back 7 this week. Mac Jones coming off a career high in passing yards, 382 yards.
Yep,
but
2 touchdowns and 85.2% completion rate.
For all the quarterbacks who have not played full seasons, Mac Jones has, and he missed that game or so in the middle of the season there, but Mac Jones is quarterback 30 on the season. Yeah, I don't want him. I don't want him as my quarterback 2
you
right
have
now.
to have a better option on your fantasy team than Mac Jones.
Let's hope.
We're talking about 2 quarterback, even if a 2 quarterback league, hopefully you have somebody.
Obviously, the one place where the Patriots have been really good, Nick Folk is kicker 6 on the season. He's usable this week. He's usable every week. If you're a top 10 kicker, you're usable every week. You're just as usable as anybody else. But from a defensive standpoint, they are the overall fantasy DST1 right now. But they're playing one of the best offenses in the entire league right now in Buffalo. So I have them ranked at 13 this week. But that means they're a streamer this week. They are usable this week if you can't find better options, or if somebody else picked up one of the other, if they picked up the Steelers playing the Falcons or whatever, and you couldn't find one of those top defensive plays of the week. They are usable still this week because they are so good on defense, even if they're playing the Bills. But yeah, the one position you'd want to use.
They're the number 10 overall defense. So
yeah, in real life, they're number 10.
In real life. And they're not bad against the pass. They're not bad against the run. So,
but then they're playing the Bills this week. So.
Some of these teams, unless you're the 49ers, which are awesome in every aspect, some of these teams, like the Cowboys, are very good against the pass, and they struggle against the run.
Right.
Not the case here with the Patriots.
No, not at all. But then we look at the other side of the field now. Nobody has to tell you to start Josh Allen.
No.
Nobody has to tell you to start Stephon Diggs.
All right.
Nobody has to tell you to start, again, Tyler Bass is kicker 2 on the year so far. If you need a kicker, if you've got him, you're playing him, and he's more usable than most other guys, because not only does he play for a high-scoring offense, but he actually kicks well, even in Buffalo. They've got the number 5 defense overall, and I've got them ranked at 3 this week because they're playing Mac Jones and the
Right.
receiving core. So nobody has to tell you to play those guys. Even Dawson Knox this week, I've got as a top 10 play. And if anybody has paid attention and listened to me all year, they know I'm not big on Dawson Knox.
You can't be big, but the week before he had 7 catches for 70 yards.
Right. He's coming off a 2-for-2 day with 17 yards and no touchdowns. But like you
That's
said,
the kind of thing that you have to, it's a blow right to the gut if you have Dawson Knox in some of these games.
Problem.
You know
Dawson
full
Knox.
well that you're going to feel like, you want to jump over a balcony or something if you have him. And then, like I said, week before, it was 7 of 7 for 70 yards.
So I told you that Juwan Johnson stat
to
start the show here, that for a third of his season, he had 6 total points, and he's tight end 10 overall. Dawson Knox is tight end 19 overall. He's played 10 games. He's got 5 red zone targets in 10 games. Now, for a guy who is as touchdown dependent as Dawson Knox is, to only be seeing 1 red zone target every other week, that's not going to get it.
It's
done.
not a recipe for success.
Not at all. So, I mean, I've got him as tight end 10 this week, mostly because the landscape is so terrible.
Everybody else is fighting the blob.
And the Patriots defense is a good matchup from a tight end standpoint. They give up the 8th most points to opposing tight ends.
Still, I'd be looking elsewhere if I.
It's a good matchup.
Could.
It's a good
On
matchup.
paper,
It's a terrible position to have to deal with. But there are worse options than Dawson Knox this week. There are better ones as well, and I hope you have one of the better ones. I do not want to have to be putting
you're not.
I don't want to have to be win now mode. Trusting Dawson Knox.
Dawson Knox, if you're hooking up your fantasy life to Dawson Knox, well,
right.
Just comment on that if you're one of those guys, so we could put you on the prayer list.
The other 2 guys here, then, before we get to our second spot here from True Classic. The only 2 guys that we have that there would be questions about would be Devin Singletary at running back and Gabe Davis at wide receiver. Now, Gabe Davis,
I got both of those guys written down here, so I'm ready to talk about it.
I was real big on Gabe Davis coming into the year. I was big on Singletary as well, and I think that they've proven that they've been good this year.
Right.
But Davis has been real hit or miss. He's been very mercurial.
And last week was a miss.
This is not a guy who sees a ton of targets, and it's not a guy who's going to catch a ton of balls every game. But when he does get a hold of it, he can take it for the distance, and he can take it a long way.
And that's interesting that you mentioned the targets, because his previous 2 games, he had 17.
Yeah, but I mean, when he gets looks and when he catches the ball, he can take it. But there's so many guys in this offense that can catch the ball. I mean, Isaiah McKenzie had a great game last week.
Isaiah McKenzie took all of what you wanted
from Gabe Davis.
Yeah. So, you want
Diggs
exposure to anybody on this Buffalo offense.
You're going to get yours with Diggs.
Right.
And Josh Allen's going to be fine more often than not. And that, like I said, the defense and the kicker and that. But Davis is a guy I like him as a flex this week, as a real low wide receiver 2 or flex this week. It's not a good matchup against the Patriots. They play well against the pass there. Allen has not been great lately. He hasn't been overly consistent to anybody but Diggs. But I do like Davis as a flex play. He's playable this week. I've got him in a ton of leagues because I was high on him in the preseason, and I am playing him probably about half the places that I have him. I am playing him. I am using him. Singletary.
I have Singletary, so let's talk about it.
Yeah. What do you see from him this week, or where do you have him?
Well, what I have, because here's what I like. The last 2 weeks, he's averaged 4.8 and 5.1 yards per carry.
Yeah.
You got to like that. And he carried 14 times for 72 yards last week. Okay. So, I mean, we can sit here and debate all day long about, Detroit and whatever else. And And New England is not Detroit.
No.
Okay? No, they
No.
are not. So whatever, but still, I like Devin Singletary. And as I mentioned earlier, with I've got 4 guys that are on bye this week. I'm in a position where I have to play him, and so, but I think that he's in a good spot, and so I like what he can bring to this game.
I've brought it up before that he is better if the game is competitive longer, because they don't go into clock killing mode with him. If they're up 20, they're not necessarily going to just turn around and hand it off to him.
Right.
If anything, they're going to give Cook more carries. So he'll be better off if this game stays competitive. And being Bills Patriots, I expect it to be competitive.
There's every reason to believe that will be the case.
Right. They don't have a giant number on this game offensively. Over under a 40.5 is not a giant number, even for an offense like the Bills, because of the Bills. The Patriots don't have a great offense, but they have a great defense. So I see this game being competitive a little bit longer. I see Singletary having to get some usage. He didn't find the end zone last week. If he finds the end zone last week, that's a much different stat line. He got you 9 points. Yeah, he got you 9 points without reaching the end zone. He gets a score, and now you're looking at 15, 16 point day. You're fine with that because you didn't draft Devin Singletary.
You'll take that out of your running back all day long.
Right? I've got him ranked as a low running back 2 flex play this week as well. I think he's usable. Again, like you said, I've got some guys off. I've got James Conner off. I've
got James Conner off too. So, he's out.
Got to get points somewhere.
I got Donta Foreman. He's out.
And I have him in several leagues. Yep.
So, I've got Devin Singletary must be inserted.
All right.
There you go.
There it is, folks. There's your Thursday game. Well, again, I'm looking forward to it. It should be actually a decent game.
It should be an excellent game. And like I said, we might want to check in on Andrew to see,
sure
if he needs some oxygen, or.
All right, let's listen to True Classic here. We'll get our second spot here, and then when we come back on the other side, we'll talk about the Sunday night game here between the Colts and the Cowboys.
Football is back, baby, and our new sponsor, True Classic, wants you to look and feel your best even after a couple of brewskis or going full force on your fantasy football draft. Sure, it's football season, but it's also butt to couch season. Luckily, True Classic has the absolute best fitting clothing a man can buy. Snug in the arms and chest with a little extra space in the torso, their t-shirts are designed to keep you cozy and highlight your best assets no matter what you're up to. So if your special someone is upset that you're watching football all day, at least you can look good doing it. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men find the perfect fit at an affordable price. Our listeners get access to the best deal they offer. For a limited time only, get 25% off with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at TrueClassic.com. Almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on skinny models with 6-packs, but most of us aren't packing anything but a few beers. Fellas, you are wearing the wrong clothes. True Classic tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. It's time to highlight your best attributes with a t-shirt you can always confidently throw on. It's about time to get your fit together, so upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic and get 25% off at TrueClassic.com with promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at TrueClassic.com with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. If there's one bet you should make this football season, it's on True Classic. True Classic, look good, feel good.
All right, welcome back. And as Kevin Wilson always says, the best endorsement of True Classic t-shirts is...
She's sitting right over there.
There it is.
About 15 feet away from me right now. So the biggest endorsement.
Kevin's wife likes them.
Dan's a great, endorsement guy and everything else, but he pales in comparison to the wife right over there. She said, "Hey, I put it on. I love it."
There you go.
So,
yep. I mean, I'll skip the obvious if they can make Kevin Wilson look good jokes. I'll just say, because, hey, they work on me too. So, all right. So Sunday night game.
I do need some work on that. So,
yeah. Well, you're not alone. There's quite a few of us out here that probably do. But Colts and Cowboys Sunday night. Colts at Cowboys.
Okay.
Traveling down
as excited as I was about the game we just talked about is how unexcited I am about
Cowboys,
this game.
according to quarter 4, Cowboys are 10.5-point favorites in this one at home.
And
There's
you know,
an
we're
over-under
talking
in this
about a
game.
team that can't call a timeout. So,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I
And
watched
the
him
only
long enough
reason
up
why
here.
this
Yeah.
game is on Sunday night is because it's the Cowboys.
Because it's the Cowboys, right? They didn't
Right?
have a chance to flex it out yet.
Right. You know, they could be playing, you know, a high school from Flagstaff, Arizona, and they would flex it into the night, you know.
Over under
spot.
a 45 in this game, which to me says that they're expecting this to be pretty hardcore one-sided. I mean, obviously 10.5-point favorites, but yeah, you're looking at a 28-17 type line, Cowboys. And I honestly am not sure it's going to be that close because I think the Cowboys can run some points up on this team. This is not an overly great defense, and this is not an offense that I think can play with the Cowboys defense. I think the Cowboys defense,
especially running, and that's going to be Indianapolis's problem. They're 20th against the run, and they've got 2 running backs that you have to. Before it was a Zeke, and that's it. That's not the case anymore. They got Tony Pollard back there, and so I think they're going to run all over them.
Now, the Colts hosting the Steelers last week, 24-17 Steeler win, and what you just mentioned, the inability to call timeout on their last drive, or the inexplicable decision not to call any timeouts until there was less than 30 seconds left in that
game. And the
game.
Cowboys, if you recall, had that problem in the playoffs last year. So they've
Mike
got
McCarthy
that problem
has had that
ironed
problem.
out now.
Yeah, since they handed him his clipboard, Mike McCarthy's had that problem. But that was one of those games, like I said, that didn't look like it was going to be a great game on paper. It was like, oh, great, Steelers and Colts, but ended up being a very competitive and actually fun game to watch. Najee Harris got injured kind of early and was out before halftime, but Benny Snell picked up the slack, ran
when
really well.
When was the last time you heard Benny Snell's name mentioned?
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, I see his name every week because we're pouring through stats and digging through, depth charts. But
yeah, you're coming across
last time he did anything,
you wish you hadn't most games.
Doing anything at all on the football field. I mean, good for him. He played well. He played really well, actually. But a game that really, the Colts really should have had a better shot at the end there to at least tie that game up. But Matt Ryan, Matt Ryan did his best running quarterback impression on that last drive there. Actually had a heck of a run. I was shocked that I know they've changed the rules supposedly, and if a quarterback dives, whether he's head first or sliding, they call him down where he's given up.
Yeah,
man, that to me, if you're diving head first, you are trying for the line, and if you're not touched, you should get wherever you can get to, not wherever you started diving or whatever the hell they call it now, because they called him pretty damn short of where the ball ended up when he made that dive on that last carry there. As it was, he ended up 22 yards rushing. For Matt Ryan, that's a big damn day, getting you 2 points. That's
probably more than he's had in 5 years.
Right. Well, he actually did have 38 yards and a touchdown about 3-4 weeks ago, I think.
Okay. So
But no, he normally does not run for a whole hell of a lot. I mean, he's normally in the single digits.
Well, that might work out against the Cowboys because they're 24th against the run.
Right.
So Jonathan Taylor, we don't have to tell you. Start.
Yeah, no, obviously, you're gonna play Jonathan Taylor. I've got him at running back 8. Their offense has not been great this season. Their offensive line has not looked like the Colts
line has not been good. They don't have a coach, they don't honestly, they don't have a coach. They've got a guy who used to play for them that they kind of stuck into a coaching role right now, and it showed at the end of that game last week. But obviously we don't have to tell you to start Taylor. Michael Pittman has been pretty good this year. He had 11 targets. 11.
He's wide receiver 14 on the year.
And the guy that really disappointed me, Paris Campbell. Right? Everybody was scrambling to pick him up. I was not one of them, but I can understand the logic. Okay? I can understand the logic. He had 3.
No, he didn't disappoint me because I wasn't expecting anything.
And then the guy that really has crash landed is Alec Pierce. You know how many targets and how many catches he had?
Yeah, no, he had 2 targets. He didn't catch a damn thing. Yeah. No,
Well, yeah, he had 2 targets, but it was a big
yeah,
0.
yep.
Okay?
He got nothing on the day.
And he's a guy actually picked up earlier in the season. He had to go.
Now the fun thing about this is one of the frustrating things that I said this last week too about the Colts. Their tight end, they throw to their tight ends. But the problem is they got 3 guys that they split those reps up with,
Right.
and they throw it all.
They sure do.
Last week, we finally saw what can happen when they give one guy the looks. Mo Alley Cox had a handful of targets on the day, but he caught, I think he caught 1 ball. Kylan Granson was ill, was out for the game. Jelani Woods, the surprise second tight end taken overall in the draft this year, went before Dulcich even. But 8 of 9 for 98 yards. Jelani Woods, when you look at him on the field, he's a mountain of a man. He's 6'7". But he runs well. He moves well. They've got a couple of towers. They've got some twin towers at tight end between him and Mo Alley Cox, who is also 6'7". Kylan Granson is the smaller kind of, he's kind of that run, that go tight end. You know, that he's going to run, he's going to do more downfield type stuff rather than the short stuff. But they've got some good tight ends. But the problem is they split the damned reps with them so often that you can never know who to count on.
Right.
If they would just continue to throw to one of them, any of them, but one of them, my choice would be Woods. I like him. Problem is I can't recommend any of them because
you can't recommend any of them because first of all, the Cowboys will kill you with their pass rush.
Yeah,
and
the Cowboys are good against tight ends anyway. So,
and we could talk about how Matt Ryan, ran around or whatever. He runs around, he's going to get killed.
He's going to get taken right.
He's going to get killed,
split right in half.
Right, and so don't start any tight ends.
In fact,
Indianapolis,
like I said,
don't do it.
Taylor and Pittman are the only 2 guys on this offense, on this whole team that I can really,
and even Pittman,
endorse this
I'm
week.
Leery of. You probably
lower
have
on him
to
this
play
week
him.
than he
You
is.
probably have to play him.
I have him as a wide receiver 2 or flex play. I've got him at wide receiver 23.
It's not a good game for Indianapolis's pass.
You don't want to be playing Matt Ryan. He's quarterback 22 on the year.
There's got to be somebody, unless you're in a 32-team league or something, there's got to be a guy that you can play that's better than Matt Ryan.
He's going to give you better than Matt, especially against the Cowboys defense here. The one other person on this whole team that might be usable this week, again, Chase McLaughlin, their kicker, is surprisingly kicker 13 on the year on what's been a bad offense. He's been usable. And the one decent matchup for the Cowboys fantasy-wise is kickers. They give up the 10th most points to opposing kickers. So at a position where you're streaming
in an
anyway,
indoor scenario,
right?
So
at a position you're streaming anyway,
right.
If you need a guy this week,
although I used Brett Mayer last week and he got me 2 points.
I did the same damn thing in one league. I got rid of who did I think I dropped Butker for him actually, which backfired a little bit. But
it definitely was a big time backfire.
But coming off a almost historic day, though. I mean, Maher looked good, but so I mean, there's your Colts that are usable: Taylor, Pittman, and McLaughlin. On the other side, again, nobody has to tell you to start Dak Prescott if you've got him. There are a few guys. There are very few guys who are better choices than him this week. I've got him at quarterback 6 because I think he can tear.
I got him a little lower than that because of Indy's pass defense.
Yeah,
but even so, because they're number 9
I think he can. I think he can tear him apart, though. I think
so. Because Lamb is coming into it, 11 targets, and Dalton Schultz had 2 touchdowns. Michael Gallup is the guy that I wrote about. Everybody's still salivating over OBJ. I don't want to hear a single thing about him until
Michael
he
Gallup
actually
is finally
signed.
starting to look healthy.
And he had 8 targets.
He had 8 targets. He had 8 looks last week.
63 yards. Okay.
Got you double digits.
And he
you
is
got
a
you double
very
digits without
talented
seeing the end zone.
receiver. And so I've recommended picking him up, even with the specter of, the one-handed catch.
I'm not going to say that they couldn't use OBJ because Noah Brown, who played for Gallup while Gallup was out the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks of the season here or whatever, He didn't see any target. He's played 34 snaps. He was third on the team in snaps at the wide receiver position. Didn't see a target last week. Jalen Tolbert, their draft pick that they were pretty big on.
Right. And they
4
you
snaps,
talk about
0
three
targets
tight
last
ends.
week.
That's what the Cowboys do.
That therein is the part of the problem there too. But I think it
Even
bodes
though
well
Dalton
for them.
Schultz had 2 touchdowns, that's been a problem for them all year long.
Schultz has looked better lately.
He has looked better.
I think he's actually healthy.
And,
He might be
of course, he
now.
killed me when I said, hey, go out and pick him up earlier in the season. And he made me look like
But I think
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Between their 2 young guys.
I was way off the mark on him.
They're playing Schultz on the franchise tag this year. There's no guarantee he comes back next year. They've got 2 young guys, Jake Ferguson,
Probably not,
University of
they've got
Wisconsin.
2 other tight ends already. So
They're both rookies.
Is that a great name or what?
Peyton Hendershot. I know it is kind of a cool name. Now, he didn't see a target in this game, but he got the only rushing attempt for a Cowboy tight end in who the hell knows how long, and took it in for a 2-yard score. So good for him.
Right.
And Jake Ferguson, Barry Alvarez, the ex-Wisconsin Badger coach and ex-Wisconsin Badger athletic director, that's his grandson, Jake Ferguson is. Jake Ferguson, 3 of 3 for 57 yards. He's shown at times this season with Schultz up. They both have, Hendershot and Ferguson, that they both are capable at tight end. So I think it bodes well for the Cowboys because they don't have to pay those guys a whole hell of a lot. They're lower draft picks at tight end. You can
either
let
one of
Dalton
them or
Schultz
Jason
go.
Witten. So
And to be honest with you, neither is Dalton Schultz, in my opinion.
right.
You let Dalton Schultz go, you don't have to pay that giant in the light of it being a tight end, you don't have to pay the giant tight end salary.
And
now.
he has severely underperformed that contract.
Right. Yep. And he's been hurt this year, and he
he's
hasn't
been hurt.
been that great.
And
I
of
think
course,
well for the Cowboys.
Dak missed 5 weeks, and that's where I really missed the mark on him. So
I'm not recommending anybody play Ferguson or Hendershot right now, but
please don't do that.
I like Ferguson. I picked Ferguson. I've got Ferguson in 3-4 different dynasty leagues. I like him going forward because of the specter of losing Schultz or letting Schultz go. There's going to have to be somebody step in there, and we know that the Cowboys like to use their tight ends. That's been a historical position for them of use. Okay, but Schultz, I do have a tight end 4 this week. I like him. I like the matchup this week. He has looked better lately. I like him this week, but nobody has to tell you to play CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb. Nobody has to tell you to play.
He's got one of the highest target shares in the whole entire league.
As he should.
He's wide receiver 7 on the year. I've got him at wide receiver 6 on the week. I think this is a game for him. Gallup, I'm not going to recommend this week. However, with Gallup and Brown as their 2 and their 3, and with the lack of production they've gotten out of Tolbert, I can see OBJ fitting in. I mean, the Rams didn't need him last year, and look what he did. He stepped in and was brilliant with them last year. I can see where he could help this team. I'm not going to be jumping for joy when he gets on the team. I don't think he does what he did last year with the Cowboys. I think CeeDee Lamb still is the guy to own.
Look at the injuries coming off of.
Right. But
even if they signed him tomorrow, he's not playing for them for a couple weeks, maybe longer.
So you're playing Prescott, you're playing Lamb, you're playing Schultz, you're playing Marr, you're playing the defense. Elliott and Pollard. Pollard, I've got it right on that running back 1-2 line. Pollard comes off that great historic game the week before.
Right.
He had a decent week last week. I mean,
he did
60 yards rushing. He caught a couple of balls, but he only had 1 yard receiving. But again, they are going to use Zeke. They are going to use him in the red zone. They are going to give him the ball. Zeke rushed Pollard last week, even though it's readily apparent, evident to everybody that Pollard is the more explosive player between the two right now. At this point in their careers, he is. But they are going to continue to give the ball to Zeke Elliott. He is going to continue to get the ball in the red zone. He's going to get short yardage situations, and he is occasionally going to break one. They're not throwing him the ball like they used to. That is almost entirely gone to Pollard.
Right.
But they are still going to give Ezekiel Elliott the ball. He is going to get his touches. He's going to get his run. He's going to get red zone looks, and he's going to score touchdowns. So they're both usable. I still have Pollard ranked ahead of him, but I still think Elliott is usable as a running back 2 or flex option this week as well. And I'll continue to recommend him as such.
Right.
I'm not off the Zeke wagon just because Pollard looked good at times this year, because they're
the time to be off the Zeke wagon was earlier in the season. It's not now.
No, it's time to be back on.
So if you climbed off, you need to get back on.
Jones is not going to allow that to not happen. So let's look ahead then real quick to the Monday night game. Again, we want to talk about unexciting matchups, but we've got the Saints at the Buccaneers. Buccaneers are only 3-point favorites at home, which seems
That just
weird.
goes to show how their offense has been their issue. It really has.
That's
You know what I mean?
That's the thing. It seems really weird that at home, where you get 3 points anyway, almost as a rule, right? That they should be only 3-point favorites at home. But it goes to show
even
how
if they've
poor
had
they've played
offensive
on
problems, you want your Bucks in your lineup this week.
offense.
You
Well,
want them. You want
yes.
them. You want them. You want them. With the possible exception of Fournette, because first of all, is he
who
healthy?
knows how healthy he'll be, and who knows
Right?
how much they'll use him.
And hopefully you listened to me a couple weeks ago, and now you've got Rashad White on your team, and so fire him up in every possible way.
We talked
in
about
this game.
being desperate for wins and making hard choices or whatever. This wasn't as hard a choice as it should have been, but I actually did drop. I dropped Najee Harris in one league to pick up Rashad White.
Okay, as long as that's not a dynasty league, that's a good play.
No, it wasn't dynasty, but either way, I mean, I would like Rashad White in a dynasty league, but I don't want to drop Harris.
I guess we could make an argument for that as well.
I don't want to drop Harris in a dynasty league. No, you're right. But and then in another is redraft again, I dropped Damian Pierce in one league for Rashad White because Pierce, I love him.
Pierce,
I've got a lot of exposure to him.
Yeah,
but the last few weeks he has tailed off. They are going to be throwing from behind, and they have not been throwing him the ball.
No,
they have started to give the ball to a Dario Gumbawale in their pass game more.
Probably because they want to say that name a lot more.
Well, yeah. Again, ex-Badger, so I like the guy. But yeah, they have started to throw the ball more to him. They're using Pierce more as an early down like rush back, and that's hard to get points that way when you're playing for a team as poor as the Houston Texans. So, yeah, I like Rashad White. I've got him ranked as an RB2 this week. I have Fournette ranked as a low flex play. Now, he's running back 14 on the season, but a lot of that came early. A lot of it has come because they have been throwing the ball to Leonard Fournette like no one expected.
Yeah, his rushing it's like,
terrible.
a horse that broke his leg or something, but
yeah. He has
been catching the ball.
Very poor and inefficient running the ball, but some of that has to be their offensive
you don't
line.
even know if he's going to play. So hopefully you don't have to attach your wagon to Leonard Fournette this week.
Right.
I might have to.
But we brought up Mike Evans earlier. We kind of made a joke about it that if you drafted Devontae Adams, he hasn't Mike Evans. Mike Evans
is the problem there? What's the problem there?
So high.
Right?
He's not.
He had 9 targets. 9. You'll take a wide receiver that has 9 targets, but he only had 2 catches somehow.
He has not scored since week 4. Since week 4.
Unfathomable.
This is a guy who has had he has had at least 8 touchdowns in 5 of the last 6 seasons. In both of the last 2 seasons, he's had, I think, 12 and 14 touchdowns. He had 12 touchdowns in the first year of that run I just talked about.
Right.
He is on pace for his worst. Yeah, he's on pace for his worst, his lowest touchdown total since 2017. He's only got 3 touchdowns on the year. 2 of those came in week 4. That's the last time he scored. He's only broken 100 yards receiving twice on the year. He's not on pace.
It's not like he's got a rookie thrown to him either.
He is not on pace to see. He's not seeing fewer targets than last season.
That's what I'm saying.
He's just not catching the ball, and he's not catching touchdowns this year like we have seen him before. He's gone from almost a 1 touchdown per game deal to an average of a touchdown every 4 games. And even that is only because he scored, like I said, twice in the one game.
Well, one
It
of the
has been
big
a
problems
weird,
I think when it comes to him, his teammate over on the other side is a big problem for him.
Doesn't
right?
bother me because I liked Godwin coming in this year, and I had him ranked higher.
Because look, I have this written down. Okay.
Yeah.
12 catches, 13 targets, 110 yards, and there's your touchdown.
Yep.
That Evans is missing.
I said coming into the year that I thought the touchdowns would even out between Godwin and Evans. I didn't think it was going to be because they would only both have 5 between them total this year. I just thought that this 12 and 14, average and 13 touchdown type thing a year for Evans had to regress to the mean a little bit. And Godwin, who had not scored a touch, he's never been a big touchdown scorer. That wasn't his thing. But you catch as many balls and you see as many targets as Godwin does. Eventually, some of those have to end up on the other side of the stripe.
Somewhat, yeah. That's your Julio Jones.
Yeah,
which
right?
That never became the case for him.
But Godwin has played 1 fewer game than Evans this season, but he's already got more targets, and he's got 1 more target and 9 more catches in 1 fewer game now. He has become their de facto kind of number 1 performer, if not their number 1 target. He's been their number 1 fantasy performer, at least. I like Godwin. I'm playing him across the board. I had a ton of exposure to him because I liked him.
Play him even though the Saints
he didn't go real early in drafts
defense.
because of being injured. We knew we were going to be missing him for several weeks, and we did. But I've got him ranked at number 12. I've got him right on that 1-2 line this week. I've got Evans at 18. So I still have him as a wide receiver 2, but I think that's what he is right now. Until he starts scoring again, catching 2 out of 9 balls is not going to get you anything.
Yeah. You or I could catch 2 out of 9 balls some way.
And Evans is not necessarily a guy anymore who's going to, I don't know. He's not going to average, 25, 30. He's not going to be Gabe Davis with the ball right now, especially with their passing game and the way they have to throw things, and Tom Brady. They're just not, it's just not going to be that way for him. So until he starts scoring again in the red zone, he's a wide receiver 2. He's not what you drafted him as. But you probably still have to play him because you drafted him so damned high.
Absolutely.
They've got good tight ends, but I can't recommend anybody this week for them.
No,
Otten,
you know why?
I like Otten going.
You know how many catches? We talked about Otten many times.
He didn't have a target last week. He didn't have a target last week, and Braid only had 2 catches. Yeah,
0.
Yep, they neither one of them is Rob Gronkowski, especially when Tom Brady's.
Yeah, so when it comes to tight end position in Tampa, forget it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I do like Otten in a dynasty format. I do like Otten as a player. I like Cameron Brate as a player, as a dude, I guess, but he's getting older and he's been hurt this year. And but I like Cade Otten going forward from a dynasty standpoint. I just can't recommend him.
Don't start him on Monday. That's all.
No. I've got Brady at quarterback 13 this week because I think the Saints can be had. And it still is Tom Brady. So he's right on that low end quarterback 1-2 line right there.
Well, I got Kyler Murray, so I have to play.
You got to play somebody. Yep.
I have to play Tom Brady. So.
Right. And yeah. And some of these got we get to the other side of the field. I got Andy Dalton ranked at quarterback 28 this week. And the Buccaneers defense is good. You don't want to be facing them. You don't want to have to play Andy Dalton against them. The only reason I have Andy Dalton at 28, remember, there are only 30 teams playing this week, folks. I've got him at 28, and 4 of those teams have backup guys starting for them. That's right. Now.
A backup,
Bryce Perkins
for the Houston Texans that you couldn't have named 2 weeks ago if you got all the letters
Kyle
in the scramble. And you couldn't have come
Allen,
up with
who played with Myles Garrett in college. They said, "What would you say to Myles Garrett right now?" He said, "Be nice to me." Okay.
Well, You know,
Way to sound confident
that's a
starting
good
quarterback.
recommendation right there. So
Yeah, but I mean, when you talk about Kyle Allen starting there, you're talking about Bryce Perkins starting over in Los
Trevor
Angeles.
Simeon, and
You talk about Trevor Simeon possibly starting in Chicago.
and
We've
he
got
was
Mike
hurt
White
before the
starting in
game
New
even
York.
started last week.
Yeah, we've got
Hurt
Mike
in
White starting in
warm-ups,
New
and he
York.
still
We
played,
might.
but you know,
It looks less likely, but there might be a Jordan Love sighting in Green Bay. I mean, there's a lot of backup guys starting this week or possibly starting this week. Kyler Murray's out, like we said, and the 13 backup quarterbacks that play in Carolina aren't playing this week. And I still have Andy Dalton at quarterback 28. So that should tell you anything you need to know right now. I do, however, still have Chris Olave as a wide receiver 2. He's getting a ton of targets.
got to start him. Got to play him.
Great. I heard a stat on the radio this afternoon that Chris Olave has
9 targets last week, and they didn't score, and he still had 9 targets.
Yeah, they were talking about rookie wide receivers in the last 5, 6, 7 years or whatever it was, who had an 80 or better grade from PFF, Pro Football Focus, and over 22% target share. And there were names on that list like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
And I believe, was it Mike Evans as well? But then Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were on that list. And it was like, well, there you have it then. I mean, yeah.
Chris Olave is a guy that I have been singing the praises
for him all year. Since I came on the show back in March, April, you have been all about Chris Olave.
I didn't know that that they'd have a 65-year-old playing a quarterback, but still,
right?
But still,
he has become their top option. He is going to be their top option going forward.
Pretty much by default, because
war of attrition,
and all that. So, but all that, he's still getting targeted 9 times. He caught 5 balls, and
Alvin Kamara.
You got to play him if you have Alvin Kamara.
You kind of probably have
to. And they're number 19 against running back. Tampa
he is
Bay.
running back 15 on the season. Now, I didn't like him coming into the year because I thought, we just kind of alluded to it, I thought that Jameis Winston would be playing quarterback for them more.
I thought so as well.
And he still might play for them the next couple of weeks. We don't know yet. Andy Dalton doesn't have a stranglehold on this position.
Well, thank goodness.
But Andy Dalton is better for Alvin Kamara and Alvin Kamara's usage and numbers than Jameis Winston is. And I have said this, and I looked up numbers, and I've proven it, I think, this year, and I think it bore itself out. But this offense is just not what we have come to expect from
I know that
the
49ers are the top defense in football, but come on, you cannot be shut out in today's NFL.
So what they say, that was the first time they've been shut out since like 2000.
I saw that. I don't remember what it said, but I don't know. I might have been 8 or something when that happened.
It was pre-Drew Brees the last time that the Saints were shut out. That's a while back, folks.
Maybe it was a week after Christopher Columbus arrived. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah, right after the Louisiana Purchase went through or whatever. But no, Kamara, I've got him at 18 this week. He's still
you're not excited about Alvin Kamara and just how far and fast he can fall in the NFL,
and especially against the Buccaneers when they give up the 30th most points to opposing running backs. They are good. They're the 3rd best team in fantasy against opposing running backs. Alvin Kamara has not been great. They have not necessarily. I mean, now he had 7
not
targets
even catching the ball because he can run it. He can catch it. Well, he could.
He caught 6 balls last week, but only for 37 yards. If you tell somebody that Alvin Kamara is going to get 6 catches in a game, you're thinking more like 60-some yards.
Yeah, maybe they watched too much of the Jets, the week before.
No, but
something where they got 2 inches of play or whatever.
You don't want to be using Jarvis Landry.
No,
you don't want to be using. I mean, If you need a tight end to stream, Juwan Johnson is possible. He's tight end 10 on the year,
Possible, hopefully,
but he's going to be up and down. He's not a sure bet because very few of them are at that position.
as we've talked about already with him.
You don't want to use their defense, even though it's the Buccaneers. You don't want to use their defense. One last guy that I'll bring up here before we shut this thing down and move on for the night here and get back to our lives. Rashid Shaheed, a rookie.
Another
rookie
great name.
Great name, fun name.
Yeah.
Fun guy to watch play football. Now, his first 2 touches in his entire career both went for 40-plus yard touchdowns. One was a run, one was a reception. He's got some explosive ability. Now, he only caught 2 balls last week, but again, for 53 yards. Had another rush for 6 yards. They use him. He's not going to see a ton of targets. He's nominally right now, they're probably their 4th receiver. So he's probably the 6th option in their pass game behind.
Yeah, if everybody was playing, yeah.
Well, and even behind Olave, behind Landry, behind Johnson, behind Kamara, probably behind, say, if Deontay Hardy is playing or Traquan Smith, whoever, he's probably behind them even. But he's like Gabe Davis. He's like, I ripped on him earlier this week on Twitter, so I'll bring it up again. Deshaun Jackson, where, they're not going to get a ton of looks, but they're always capable of taking 2 of those looks to the house for 70, 80 some yards and a touchdown every game. So I like Rashid Shaheed. I'm not gonna tell anybody to go out and play him this week. I am gonna say that he's interesting and intriguing from a dynasty standpoint. And he's somebody who I think is really fun to watch. He's young. Chris Olave is going to be their guy, but Shaheed, there's no reason Shaheed couldn't be like their number 2, or number 3, depending on if they, actually decide to use a tight end occasionally going forward. If they can find themselves a quarterback here for the future in the next year or 2, I kind of like, I like watching him. I want to bring him up just because I think, dang it, this kid, he's got some ability. He kind of came out of nowhere and he's fun to watch. But no, unless you're playing Kamara or Olave, maybe streaming Johnson, maybe streaming Will Lutz, there's not a whole lot to use here, especially against the Buccaneers.
No.
So get your primetime fix tomorrow night, folks, because I don't expect there to be a whole hell of a lot to watch.
Fix. And don't worry about, like we said, the Sunday and Monday night games because, right, you've got some great games coming up this Sunday before the Cowboys game. You've got Tennessee at Philadelphia. You've got Kansas City at Cincinnati. You got Miami at San Francisco. So when what is it, 1 o'clock, I guess, in the East Coast where time begins or whatever. When those games begin, just be ready for some good football games. And don't forget, make sure that you're watching this very channel because all the previews will be happening at 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock where we live.
10 o'clock our time. Yep.
That's right.
Way early from my standpoint. But yeah. All right, folks. That is going to do it, though, for us for this week, for the Wednesday night edition. Kevin, go ahead and tell people what you got going on, where we can find you here.
Well, you can always find me on Twitter right there. You see it, Kevin62, WILSEA. And there's an article that went live this week. I do an article for the waiver pickups, and even though they all, in most leagues, went through this morning, there are still some that do it Thursday.
My dynasty leagues all do it on Thursday, yeah.
Okay. And there's a lot of guys on there that weren't, may not have been claimed. You may be looking for a guy. Get on there to the Belly Up Fantasy website, as it's on there right now. And and as I mentioned, there was a player that has a 0% ownership rate that's in my article that I recommended picking up. So get over there, check it out. He is available if nobody else is. And so check them out.
You
Right
can't
there,
pay for that kind of
Belly Up
insight,
Fantasy
folks,
Sport
and you don't
dot
have to
com.
pay for it.
That's right.
Get over to Belly Up Fantasy Sports. That's where you'll find me. My rankings will be up probably either later tonight or early tomorrow morning. I know they will be, but I know that Dan Mader and Andrew, our colleague, and Jason Commissioner Cooper from the TSS Fantasy Show, again here on the Belly Up Network,
Which they're probably live right now.
They've got their rankings up as well over there. My Thursday night preview of tomorrow night's game, a little more in depth than what we did tonight. That'll be
That's
up
right.
tomorrow
You definitely
morning.
want to check.
Yep. And
Right
I'll
here,
also
you've
have,
got two of us that are nominated for the content creators of the
I
year.
wasn't going to bring that
So,
up, but yeah.
you know, it's exciting times right now. And if you tune in on Sunday, then you got Andrew, who's right there with us. He is a nominee as well.
That's
So
right.
you are
Check
watching
it out.
quality television right now.
Check that. Yep.
That's
Check
right.
out our content over there. All of our stuff we've got. There's start sit articles. There's waiver pickups. There's studs and duds. Everything you could want from a fantasy standpoint. Head over there to bellyupfantasysports.com.
You could possibly want, and it's not ESPN Plus. All right, that you have to pay for.
There you have it.
So
all
there
right,
you go.
folks. That is going to do it. Like he said, find us right back here with Andrew on Sunday morning at 11 Eastern, 10 Central. We'll be previewing everything from Sunday. Until then, I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Have a good time tomorrow. Good luck for Sunday.
That's right. And remember, Andrew, if you're watching, we'll be praying for you.
Yeah. All right, folks. Have a good night. Slán Java.